Okay, sorry about that. I have to go back and a couple steps because I forgot to actually record this class. So it's carrying stones, digging holes, weekly Sunday class, weekly online class. Today I'm doing readdressing, talking about energy healing and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at the blog that goes along with this class, which is carrying stones and digging holes, weekly online class, April 19, 2020, and we're doing readdressing, and I'm teaching the class. And so there's a blog that goes with it. The blog you can find at coe-llc.com. Anyway, we're just I kind of screwed up, so I'm going to backtrack. I was trained 30 years ago to do DNA activation and all kinds of different kind of activation in people by a Lakota Sioux medicine woman that I studied with, who was a phenomenal energetic healer. And I did it for a long period of time till about 15 years ago, when I started realizing that doing any kind of activation work for people would make their lives worse because they didn't do their step-by-step process. Finding a path, doing the practices, learning that path, spiritual road. And so what would happen is the activation would kind of slingshot them in a certain amount. I mean, it wasn't going to slingshot them all the way because from A to Z, because a lot of their stuff, because they haven't done their step-by-step process, they weren't going to be able to achieve anyway. Maybe they'd hit A to M, right? But they couldn't go any further because they haven't done the steps, which means that they don't have the life experience to know what the M or Z up to M and Z is going to be, because they still have these filters. But slingshotting them from A to M by doing activation work actually forced all of those life lessons that they would have gotten through the step-by-step process all at once happening. So I've seen people get really sick with cancer, diseases, lose their home, all kinds of different things happening kind of simultaneously and all at once. So I don't do that work. What I do is that I teach people, right? I teach them how to do practices and work step by step with whatever they're working with at that time. And then I try to put in, the health component, the mental component, emotional, and the energy component. I don't really call it, people go mind, emotion, physical, spirit. Spirit it's energetic, right? It's just energetic. That's what it is. Okay, so so that's kind of like why I don't do that. So I wanted to kind of talk briefly, even though this is going to be mostly about the energy body, because that's what we're readdressing, is all the energy that we've lost over a period of time. But I want to talk about the emotional body and how the emotional body works. I work with a lot, whatever shows up on my plate, whatever they show me when I tap into that stream, past, present, and future, at whatever point I go in. And there are 8, I kind of categorize 8 bodies because it's easier for me to do that, because when I say I want to look at the mental body, I want to go look at the emotional body, I want to go look at the energy body, and then when I'm tapped into the stream of information, then I get sent there and I can go see, I can go look at what's going on. So the emotional body, even though they're not compartmentalized, I can ask that information be separated and so that I can look at each compartment. So when I'm looking at, I have, 7 to 8 bodies that I deal with, with each individual. Emotional body is the one that is like the furthest away from us. Like it could be past the sun. And if we want to talk about, location and travel distance and, it's, it would be, most people's emotional body is so far away from them that it would be like equal from here, me being here, and my energy, my emotional body being, somewhere around the sun. So it's really important that the emotional body, get in proximity with this, and especially the energy body. Um, because otherwise you don't have the emotional field to help you. And also, you have to be a unified being, right? So it means all the bodies have to fit together. There has to be a huge amount of energy in the energy body, and just, how the whole thing operates. So having your emotional body way the hell over there. And, we've had to put it way the hell over there. And other people have helped us to, beat it away, right? Chase it away, because did not have any contact with it. And that's what's going to drain you the most, because your emotional body is feeding things, feeding your past, using your energy body to do that work. And because you don't have any attachment to it, you can't tell. And you don't know exactly what's going on. And mostly it's because you don't feel. And yeah, is it tough? Oh my gosh, so tough to actually feel, to feel, to feel it all. So I was going to tell you a little bit story about my emotional body. So I've been working with, different people for a really long time, 51 now. And I have had a lot of just brilliant, amazing teachers. If I didn't like the teacher, I didn't stick with it. Um, you know, um, and a lot of my teachers were super hard on me because my emotional body was, beaten to death and stored past the sun. And so I remember I was going through these practices, and I started to kind of get wigged out. So after I'd do like this heavy, healing practice, I'd literally um, sit in my bathtub for 2 hours and just howl, cry. This went on for like 6 months. And then finally, I just started having these weird vibes. And I kind of felt like periodically, I'd feel like something was like behind me, like following me, maybe started about 15 feet away. And then it got closer and closer. I remember it was like right next to me. I could feel it like right behind me. And so I was preparing for some, heavy shamanism stuff where I was going to be like, the moment where I have to turn around and battle, this entity. And so like, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it to kind of make its move. And I'm watching it and I'm monitoring it, over a period of time. And then all of a sudden, the moment came where I felt like I really needed to confront it. And I realized it was my emotional body, that I hadn't been in that close of a proximity with my emotional body for so long. It was so foreign and alien to me and so disconnected that I thought it was an entity or a demon or something like that I was actually going to have to fight, which I've done a lot of that kind of work as well. And when I noticed that it was me, it was my emotional body, and that somehow through a lot of this work I had been doing, I finally got it to actually be closer to me, and how freaked out, not only that it made my mind, but it made my body, my hair would stand on end, it would scare me. So you're doing a lot of this work. People don't realize, even the most conscious people have disassociation. And so they are just really not in contact with their emotional body. They don't know their emotional body. They're not friends with their emotional body. Their emotional body packed up and moved to, another universe years ago. And having to do work to bring that, like emotional body closer and closer, because it is a really important component to you being able to hold energy in your energy body, and also keep energy in your energy body. It's super important to know what's going on with you emotionally. Just because you don't feel it, or just because there's a disassociation or whatever else, doesn't mean that it's not operating, and doesn't mean that it's not draining. It's also part of draining the energy body. Okay, so next, hold on, let me just do a check-in. Next, I want to go down to, let me go out here again. Okay, so next I want to talk about Carolyn Meese. So we're going to move into the readdressing part. Readdressing your power and energy. And so I want to talk about something Carolyn Meese said a long time ago. In 1992, she created this work called The Energy Anatomy. I don't remember it was in a book, but it was on tape. Back then, tape cassettes. And I would play them over and over and over again until basically the cassette tapes didn't work. And then eventually when CDs came out, I got a CD set. And I would listen to them periodically, you know, every couple of years or whatever year, drag them out, listen to the whole thing. And always you'd hear, you know, different levels of things. Well, and that's because, you know, I'm doing my step-by-step process, right? And so I'm gaining this insight and understanding as I go. So every time that I listen to them, I've gained more insight and understanding. And so this work could take me to another level, a deeper level, instead of slingshot and missing all of it. So one of the things that she talked about was that we are given, you know, say $200 worth of energy every morning when we wake up. And by the time that we get out of the shower, right, we haven't even like gotten ready to go to work, we're getting out of the shower and we're getting dressed to, you know, to get in the car and leave to work, we've already spent our $200 worth of energy. And we needed all that to run, you know, everything we've got here for 24 hours till the next shot of daily income. And so I think about it like a bank account. And so every day you get a deposit of $200, but by the time that you get out of the shower, now your $200 worth of credit has been spent. And she says, you know, like you start thinking about maybe one of your coworkers you don't like, or you start thinking about your parents, or you start thinking about things that are stressing you out, or you can't make your mortgage payment, or you're in the process of moving, or maybe you're in a divorce, or you're thinking about your childhood, and all these different places and spaces, right? And so you're sending out lines of energy to all these things that you're thinking about. So that energy has to come from somewhere, right? It's not just an infinite amount of energy, right? So that energy has to come from somewhere. So you're just spending it all. It's going out everywhere. And then you wonder why, you know, by the time you get out of the shower and you get in the car, you're exhausted. Because you are. You have no energy left in your energy bank account. And from that point on, you're still sending stuff out, thinking about all this garbage. It's causing emotional triggers in you, regardless if you know that, because you may not be in touch with your emotional body, so you can't feel those triggers. And by the time, you know, the end of the day comes, you've borrowed against your future energetically. So now your energy, you know, bank account is minus 5,000. It's in the red. And you're not going to get that back. You're not going to recover it overnight, because you only get 200 when you wake up. You're still going to be 4,800 energy dollars in the red starting into the next day. So this is kind of like, you know, when we're readdressing our power and energy, we have to readdress like all of that. Readdress, you know, a lot of things that have to do with our energy and our timeline on this earth, where the energy is going, where it has gone. And so a lot of things like that. So we're going to start with the energy in your energy bank account, your energy dollar bank account was started from your mother. But most mothers on the planet don't have adequate energy these days. We've several generations and conflict and suffering and dysfunction and codependency and war and all kinds of situations and issues. So the mother has all the stress going on. Number one, she probably didn't have enough energy when you were born anyway for herself and to be able to share some with you. And so there could be conflict, there could be arguments. This person probably hasn't done any spiritual work or dealing with their energy field. So by the time you're born, you're not going to really get a whole lot of energy from your mother, right? This is the big problem. So you start seeing, there's a lot of things that contribute to this, but one of the big things that I believe contributes to childhood illness and disease is the fact that they're not getting a lot of energy from the parent. And then on top of it, the food and everything else is really toxic to the physical body, right? And this is causing, the conflict, which means that the person's not going to live very long because there wasn't enough energy in the field, and whatever energy's in there is in conflict and is being disassembled, dismantled, and leaked out of the energy body. And so the person doesn't have a lot of energy. And we're going to talk about kind of some thoughts about the energy body too. Okay, so second thing, what you have given away. So whatever energy you did get from your mother, and then also what you've given away and also has been taken away with your permission. And this has a lot to do with like abuse, trauma, illness, food. It can deal with a lot of different aspects of the energy that you gave away, which means that you were fed unhealthy food, you're in an unhealthy lifestyle growing up, you were abused. There are just lots of different components of this whole, energy that you've given away. You felt sorry for things, you felt sorry for someone, you feel sorry for yourself. That's giving away a lot of the energy. And then energy that has been taken away with your permission, that's been scared out of you, where you've had post-traumatic stress events, where you had like a life-death experience or major injury, or serious abuse, where other people and events have taken your energy and are still feeding off of them today. And this is the important thing, is like, when you pass on from this, and whether you believe in incarnation or not, you're going to have these, you're still going to be feeding these energy timelines, even if you come back. So it's important to actually, deal with them, in the here and now. Because remember, you're borrowed into the future, right? So as long as you're living, you keep borrowing that energy, financial, money, timeline, or, on that timeline. So every day you wake up, oh, you're 5,000 in the hole. You get 200 against that. Okay, I'm at minus, in the red, 4,800. But tomorrow, I don't know it yet, is going to be a worse day, and I have no practices, I have no tools, I have no nothing in order to actually manage what's going to happen with that energy. And then I'm 8,000 in the hole. So then the day after that, I'm like, 1,200, 12,000 negative. And so this is how we're living our life. So it's no wonder that we're aging fast, that the environment and everything looks bad, because, as the energy is leaked out of us, it also is leaked out of everything. My teacher Bobido used to say that when I heal my cancer, then I heal that cancer somewhere outside of me. Doesn't really matter where that outside is, but that I heal it. So Let's see. Okay, energy that you're left with, um, that you have to figure out. Um, and you can do that by looking at your current health, your current energy level, emotional states. Um, and then so that's you can figure out where you kind of at, in the present moment with a lot of that stuff. It's easy to see with the physical body. Let's see. And then what is your energy field? Okay, so this is how I see the energy body. It's a pretty big field and bubble. And it has like the edges of it kind of remind me sometimes of like a saran wrap. So it's all nice and dandy when the energy bodies are full. Plus, this is where we get all the energy to run all of our systems. So, you pay your money to the power company so that they can send you power from their main power operation through the lines into your house to run all your, software applications, whatever you want to run or regulate as far as needing power. Same thing applies. Your energy body is the power company, and it runs out, energy through the chakra system into the physical body. And then the physical body also has another process of where it uses the material in the body and the structure in a diaphragm. So you have this area and space in the body that's contracting, that's also utilizing energy into the body system to keep all the systems open and regulated and running properly. So most people don't have really any energy left in their energy body. This is why they age really rapidly, why they have lots of health problems. The main scenario. So what happens is that over, the course of your life, and some people's lives are short because, they didn't have a lot of energy when they became a fetus, and then they didn't get a whole lot of energy from their mother, and so they don't survive or live very long, because the energy gets, whatever energy they have is not very much, and it gets leaked out right away. And so they basically, the way it looks to me is that you get suffocated to death. So you have this energy body, and the outside part of it it's like a saran wrap. And so when I start to see people who have a lot of emotional problems and health problems, and one of the things I start to notice about their physical body is that they, usually starts out with things like panic attacks, anxiety, heart rhythm issues. Also you probably have some inflammatory stuff from different systems of the body. You might be having a lot of, urinary tract infections, digestive stuff. Yeah, so, but usually there's always like this, people start to have like heavy anxiety and panic attacks. And that's how you know that your energy body is getting super kind of in that woo, 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 emergency level period of there's not much energy left in it. So what happens is the saran wrap edge of the energy field, it comes in closer and closer and closer as the energy is leaked out over periods of time and never recovered. And then it suffocates you. So I don't see people dying. I mean, in the outside world, we've made up all these diseases and everything, but what it looks like is that the person is being suffocated to death, right? Slowly their energy body is suffocating them, and then they expire. And so they could expire from cancer or whatever else, but it's all caused from a large majority of it is caused from the energy body being depleted. So Carlo Castaneda, Don Juan Matus, who is Carlo Castaneda's, you can go and look at those books, and a lot of different other types of shaman practices talk about how that's basically what this world does, is it punctures holes from day one into our energy field, and our energy field leaks out energy everywhere. And some people take it. If, say, for example, you were in a situation where a parent attacked you, grabbed you, attacked you, shook you around, and scared you badly, then that is a major hole puncture to your energy field. And that energy will be feeding that situation and event and that person indefinitely. And there's a whole other, thing that goes around with this type of work. And another way that you're heavily depleted is also through sexual energy. And this, one of the things that I usually have women do in the first, few years working with me is to, readdress and reclaim a lot of this energy history. So kind of briefly talk about my brain cancer. So, when I was 32, I finally found out that I had brain cancer. It was kind of a long, difficult thing. I did treat it 100% myself. I did macrobiotic diet. I did lots of nutritional stuff. I did a lot of juicing, and I was working with this amazing man who was like 90, who'd been a holistic, naturopath doctor for 65 years or something like that, 60 years. And also he was a medical intuitive. So, but, it wasn't enough, right? I mean, I was doing a lot better, but having, stage 4, stage 5 brain cancer was tough. So for 5 years, I'm doing this diet thing and lifestyle change and all of these other kinds of things. And there's this point where I realized like I had to go back to doing my shamanism work. And that meant that I had to actually get serious about it instead of poo-pooing it and it's not that important. And just a lot of the teachings, these shamanic, medicine type teachings that I had been taught, that I was kind of lackadaisy and lazy, that, I had to put my money where my mouth is and I had to put my foot on the pedal. And so it was readdressing a lot of this lost power and energy in certain sections of my life that actually helped me with finally overcoming the brain cancer and healing myself completely. So I'm not telling you something that is kind of made up stuff, but it is also important to utilize every level of practices for an achievement. Addressing, the energy stuff is really important, as well as the food, eating properly, emotional, behavioral, modification, and a lot of the practices are super, super important. Okay, so that's kind of what happens. We're leaking energy all over. So, when your emotional body gets closer, you are able to recognize where you were in a situation where you lost power. And it can be as mundane as, I remember one time I went into the grocery store and there was a woman with a child. I don't know how old the child was, maybe like 3 or 4. But you could tell the parent, she was having like a really tough day. And the kid was really not being a very nice kid. And it's probably due to the kid being kind of overly spoiled. Anyway, so there was like this major conflict, and I kind of, was coming down the aisle towards the conflict, and it really emotionally like disturbed me, being an osteopath, watching her grab the child by the arm and jerking the child around, realizing like, all that tissue and that child's body it's damaged. It's damaged. Like you can't really jerk on soft bones and soft tissue that are still developing like that. They can't have that kind of trauma. They're going to have long-term issues, blocked meridian points or meridians, not connecting up, or, your ley lines in your body, just a lot of lymphatics, just a lot of really important things, even cartilage, more degeneration on that side, arthritis, we're talking long-term, right? So, I really didn't know how to deal with the situation, and I didn't really know if, I should intervene. I was looking around for other people, or other people paying attention to what's going on. So I decided to turn away and walk away from the situation instead of reading the woman her personal inventory and, getting into this, since it didn't really seem like anybody else really cared. I mean, it's, business as usual in American culture. So I got out to the car and I just all of a sudden felt completely drained. And I realized I had dropped so much energy on the floor there over that event in the grocery store. And I went in and did some readdressing and reclaiming work to pull that energy back into my body so that I didn't leave it there. So that's just part of cleaning up, kind of your own mess, and cleaning up the events and situations that you have. Okay. So why is it, reclaiming energy? Why is that? So we go through the readdressing period, right? So we're readdressing our timelines, or readdressing everything that's happened to us. We're readdressing our choices that we've made that have led us to where we're at, in whatever kind of crisis that we're in, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And then we have to go into a period of reclaiming, so why is it important to reclaim these events and energy and power? Because it's the only way that you're going to have long-term health and longevity, and be able to have enough energy and stamina to take care of yourself in really healthy ways, because a lot of these things require energy. I have a lot of clients who've come to me that have been really sick, that I just feel their energy field with energy so that they can actually get out of bed. They can actually chop the celery. They can actually, put everything into a juicer and then get the juicer cleaned and drink their juice and, be on their way. So sometimes when you're starting from where you're at, you don't have enough resources or energy in order to get the stuff done in your physical life to get to the energy practice parts, because you have to be generating power, and eating the right food and taking care of yourself is generating power. There are also energy practices, mental ones, emotional ones, the physical ones, and a lot of the energy ones to do reclaiming of your energy power. But it's really important in all aspects of your life to be generating energy. I mean, even fixing your body and stretching is opening up your body's ability and capability to utilize the chakras that are pushing energy through them into your body, into the diaphragm areas. But your body's got to open and contract. So if you're stiff, you're in pain all the time, you're sick, you have massive nutritional deficiencies, well, it's not going to happen, is it? So, even reclaiming energy into your field is not going to be helpful. So, but you have to start somewhere and you have to work on it, and everything is a practice, right? Everything takes time, but it's generating power towards yourself. Taking the easy way out is losing energy, leaking the energy out that you're not going to get back. What we resist will persist until we're dead. And usually that's sooner than later. Okay, so then we come into the reassessing period. So we go to these little periods of, we're readdressing, we're looking at things clearly. We decide to do some reclaiming work. We then get to a point, at different turns where we are reassessing our situation. reassessing, our relationships with other people, reassessing our jobs, reassessing, how what we're eating, reassessing, things on our path. Is this the life that I'm willing to live? Is this the life that I want to live? And you have to stay within. It may not change a lot outside of yourself, but the key is changing inside yourself so that you are better apt at making the choices that you want. For example, for me, I, would like to live as long as possible. I have some really high goals. One of that goals is to be able to take my physical body and walk through dimensional doorways, and come in and out. That's one of the biggest things that, I want to be able to do before, my life in this world is done. And everybody has different kinds of goals, I guess. And I've had this goal for a really long time, since like late 1980s, when I was reading, in my life, a lot of material of shamans that were able to do that. That was one of the things that I was, most interested in. That way, this world no longer has any gravity or attachment or limitations or filters or anything for me at that point. Like, I can bypass and come in and out of it at will in my body. And I can go kind of any place that I want. So, but, everybody has kind of different ideas and different goals and different, things that they want to do with their life. And this is another thing. You may not even like know what you want to do with your life or how you want to get through your life or whatever else, because number one, your emotional body is not even close to your energy body. It's not accessible. And number two, you're leaking so much energy everywhere. So you can still go through these crazy things that happen in life. But the difference is like, you're going to leak energy out and leave that energy for somebody else to pick up and utilize, or you're going to keep that energy in your body. And how do you do that, right? Those are the things that I teach and I educate, because like I said in the beginning, activating, doing a lot of this energy, activation work is dangerous, because it doesn't give the person the actual tools and skills that they need in order to manage all aspects of their life. And you are personally responsible for all of that. All right. So reassessing. This has to take place to stop the constant lifestyle choices that keep you in power loss and sickness and death. All right. Regeneration usually is the fourth component. You're going to get to these periods where, because, you're utilizing all of these things in your life as power, practices, shaman practices, especially the energy one. And you're going to get to these periods where you can notice that your body is regenerating. You can see things happening in your body. And you start to notice you have enough power, you have enough energy, you have enough things to actually add in more, maybe physical type practices, to keep going, because you're building energy, right? So you're starting to be able to generate power, keep power, not losing it. Also, get your power back from events and places that you've left it in the past. And all of these things working to combine with eating properly, getting enough, physical exercise, mental practices, and also emotional practices. You start to see these major sections of regeneration and recovery. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, there are certain types of practices. I've spent 30 years in this work. And so there are a lot of practices that can help you to reclaim, but I'm not going to teach those practices during this class, because each person is a little bit individualized depending on where they're at, where their where they're really losing their power, where it's really leaked. And so I don't like to generalize practices for people to do. So that if people are interested in having private appointments, you can look at my website, coe-llc.com, and fees and schedule. And also I have testimonial page and a lot of other stuff, but you can email me or get a hold of me and have a private session, and we can kind of discuss, where in your timelines and what you need to do physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, looking at everything and practices to help you achieve those things. So I've had a private practice for 30 years, and I do all of this work, like it's all about energy, it's all about vitality, it's all about longevity. And the world is still going to keep going the way that it is, right? There's always going to be something going on. There's always going to be some kind of nightmare. There's going to be something that's going to be impacting our lives. The difference is getting yourself into a place where those things will happen. Maybe they'll even sneak up. It's a sneak attack. You don't even see it coming. And at first, if you do lose energy to it, or you lose something to it, you lose your foothold to it in whatever way that looks like, you will have the tools to recover it, or recover as much of it as possible, so that that energy does get back into your field. And then over time, then those things happen to you, those events happen to you, and you're not going to lose a lot of energy towards them anymore. But so there's always like this step-by-step process that kind of has to take place. So I was just going to kind of see if there was anything else that I probably should add to this. Sometimes, I was just thinking about Ryan, who was one of my students for a long time, one of my first and only shamanism student, and teaching him some of these methods to recover energy and power. And he recovered such an enormous piece a couple months ago that he said that he felt even his energy field pop out. Like, he said that it felt like he didn't even recognize it at the time until he recovered this energy, and he felt the energy fill up his sphere, and he felt it like pop out like a dent. So he didn't even know that on one whole side, like it was literally energetically dented in. This could cause you to walk wrong, have, if it's on this side of your body where that energy field is dented in, you could have, cognitive problems. You might even have weird stuff going on with your jaw, your head, your neck. On this side, your heart, maybe even this arm is off and weird. Sometimes when people have physical strokes, that's what I see a lot, is that energy field is pushed in and kind of dented in. It needs to be like opened up and popped back up open. Anyway, so he was saying that like he recovered this huge amount of energy, and he just felt his energy field just go pop, like it was a big dent in a car, and the dent, boom, popped out. And he just felt a lot different. And now he's got a lot more feeling, enormous amounts of feeling activity that are going on. So sometimes, we're watching people walk, they walk like crabs. And we could say, yeah, they were in a car accident. Yeah, they were this. Yeah, they were that. But ultimately, it's that energy field that has a wobble in it, right? It's imbalanced, or sometimes it's even starting to restrain the physical body, like a saran wrap, suffocating the whole operation, the whole physical body. And those things can be restored and helped. I've seen people at the brink of death. Like, I've worked on people at the brink of death, and I've watched them, make recover, slowly make recover, and then totally recover. So I look at death as not really even an important thing to actually focus in on. Because if we're doing things right, if we're doing them correctly, and sometimes that means that we have to study with people that can teach us things that we're not going to learn anywhere else. Because these are people like myself that have actually gone through these practices, worked with these people, have, a lifetime full of experience and knowledge, dedication to these practices. And this is the other thing too I'd like to tell people, whether it's a physical, mental, emotional, or energetic situation, you can't go to a practitioner who hasn't had experience in some of the issues and overcame them that's going to be able to help you, because you have to have somebody that's going to be able to pull you up vibrationally to that next step. So say, for example, um, I, haven't been to doctors and I don't even know, I can't even tell you how long, because they're just kind of also one of those unnecessary things. I mean, if I was going to break my leg, of course I would go in. If I cut myself and I was bleeding out, of course I would go in, but that's about it. I probably wouldn't go to a doctor for any other reason at all. Because there isn't anybody out there that, is going to be able to help me. Say, for example, with my brain cancer, when I was 32, I recognized this. I'm 51 now, but I recognize the fact that, who am I going to go to? I don't know anyone that actually cured their own brain, their own cancer alternatively. And that's what I wanted to do. So I had to get my machete and I had to cut a path through the wilderness on my own. And then, take into considerations all these other things that may show up, make decisions about those, if they're going to work for me or not, maybe even test run them. And so, because there wasn't anybody that's going to be able to elevate me energetically to the next step. So if you continue to keep going to these people, doctors, practitioners, physical therapy, physical training, and all these other things, looking for something, first you have to identify what that something is. And then you have to clearly assess if you're going to be able to find somebody who's going to be able to actually help you achieve that, because they've achieved it. So the fact that, I'm not saying I'm an expert in cancer, but, I did cure my own cancer without really, not a whole lot of help, because there wasn't really a whole lot of help out there. And I was in the alternative field when all this came down, and I saw how bad alternative medicine was, Western medicine, all of it. And none of it could actually help, get me raised up in my vibration. So that way I could take in new information, new components, new downloads, and experiment and research and experience in order to find, the exact pieces that were going to fit into my puzzle, and make my puzzle whole, so that there were no gaps. So the other thing too is, like, you have to take into big consideration sometimes that you have to look for people who are going to be able to take you to that next level. So for example, if you have cancer and you're going to a doctor who has never had cancer and never been faced with the choices of what they would do if they did have cancer, and then actually cure their own cancer, that person is not going to be able to take you to curing your cancer. So just some things that you have to think about. If your therapist is not emotionally, like you're going through a mental therapist or a psychiatrist, and their life doesn't look whole. They don't really look like they've fixed anything with their life, or they're heavy and they look super unhealthy and their skin doesn't look good. These are not people that are going to be able to help you, because they are not helping themselves. So, I tell people all I have to do is look at the body, the physical body of my patients or people that, I may want to go work with or I may want to go do work with. And I can figure out exactly where they're at energetically. And I can tell if they're going to be able to help pull me to the next level that I want to go, where I need to go. Instead of just haphazardly, floundering around, waiting, for someone to show on my path and then, take everything that they say as God and then end up, more maimed and damaged. So it's really important to really look at if they're the people that you can find in your reality to work with or you can't, and then taking personal responsibility for that and starting, managing that journey. And I get sometimes in the beginning, when I had brain cancer, there was a period that was so bad that I, kept hoping somebody would break down my door and just shoot me, or if I could just get out to the highway, maybe I could get ran over. And it was super, super hard. And I probably shouldn't have survived it. I shouldn't have probably made it. And, there was just periods where I was just so sick that I didn't have the energy to focus in on anything. Sometimes I didn't even have the energy to get off the floor for 3 or 4 days. But when I did have that moment of energy, it was choice, choice, choice. Get the juicer out, make myself some meals, some macrobiotic meals that I could put in the fridge for like 3 or 4 days in case I went through a bad cycle. So it was the choices that I was making during the periods where I did have a little bit of energy and maybe the pain and everything else was off a little bit, right? That I could prepare for the days that were going to be bad. And making sure that I did, as a practice, a physical, spiritual practice to my body, the physical, spiritual practice to my mind, and being a good parent and taking care of myself until I was healthy enough to really start working with the energetic side of things, that I could really accelerate, recovery. And the last part, regeneration. All right. So anyway, if you want to find out more about me, you can find out more about me on coe-llc.com. I hope this was a insightful education and understanding for you. And thanks for joining me. And this record will be on Patreon, Consciousness of Economics. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.